Hi, this is 365801 and today I'm going to be talking about a particular kind of readathon, and that is Tome Topple. Now, round 14 for the Tome Topple will be held March 15th to the 28th, and the last one was held in November 2020, so they tend to hold one every few months. So if you missed this one, don't worry, you can always join in the next one. Now, Tome Topple is hosted by quite a few people, and I will link all of their details down below. Now, they have the challenges posted on their Twitter. There's usually a bingo board with different categories, and one tome can count towards more than one category. They also host sprints and are very supportive for everyone. Very low key. It's a nice atmosphere for a readathon. Now, the main challenge for Tome Topple is of course to read a tome, and by their definition that is a book that's over 500 pages. As a manga collector, that's not actually something I have a lot of in my collection. So I'm going to go through what it means to take part in Tome Topple as a manga collector, and a BL one at that. If you are a fan or a collector of manga, then you'll be aware that manga usually comes in a single volume format. Now, these volumes can range between 150 to 250 pages in length, and that might be due to the original publisher or the original publication in which it is published, or it could be the genre, the demographic. Any number of factors can impact on how long a single volume of manga might be. However, that is usually the range between 150 to 250 pages, which would discount these as options for your Tome Topple. So as you can see in front of me, I do have a small range of titles from different demographics, and they're all roughly around the same size. So it doesn't really matter what kind of manga it is. When dealing with the single volume, it's usually around the same size and length. Now, the trim size and the type of volume doesn't necessarily impact on the page length. For example, The Angel of Ilhamburg is a lovely single volume work that is a yen press title, and it is hardback. And in front of me I also have Nabari no O volume 1, and they're about the same length in page numbers. We also have Wandering Sun, a Fantagraphics title that is beautiful, and it's also hardback, but it's also around the average length of a single volume of manga, such as Cells at Work or Silver Spoon. Tokyo Ghoul, I think, has roughly the same number of pages as well, maybe just slightly more. But on the side you can see Bat Manga and Lychee Light Club, which in terms of their trim size is about the same size as Cells at Work and Silver Spoon, but they have slightly more pages. They're around the 300 to 350 mark for a single volume. So even though we have single volumes, within that there are some discrepancies, there is some differences in range, and you really need to look to see, does this have more pages? You can usually look at the spine to see, but when it comes to hardbacks, that's not necessarily the case. So something large like Wandering Sun actually has just the same number of pages as something smaller like Nabari no O. So make sure you check out how many pages are in that single volume. And as I mentioned previously, the genre doesn't necessarily dictate how many pages are going to be in a single volume. This is a real good range of different genres and demographics. So make sure, once again, you check your page count to see if you've got a title that you could use for Tome Topple. Now, as manga has traditionally come in a single volume format, that makes it difficult to take part in Tome Topple. So one workaround is to use an omnibus. Now, I have a selection in front of me of various different kinds, and some are 2-in-1s and some are 3-in-1s. Now, generally, 3-in-1 will have over 500 pages and a 2-in-1 will not. However, there are times when a 2-in-1 might just sneak over the 500 page mark, and a 3-in-1 actually just falls short. So once again, you'll have to check the page count for your particular volume to see if it goes over or under. Kuroko's Basketball volumes 1 and 2 unfortunately falls short. Skip Beat just sneaks over. Tsubasa was huge. So I could definitely read Tsubasa, I think Cross Game and a Skip Beat Fullmetal Alchemist for this Tome Topple. So if you got an omnibus collection, then you should and could take part in Tome Topple to get through your TBRs. It's a really good opportunity. Now, as a BL fan, what can you do to take part? Tome Topple generally deals with tomes that are prose and not manga, so I've put a selection of my novel collection up. Now, unfortunately, not a single one of these is over the 500 page mark. I do know that Roppongi Night Clinic has a second volume, but they still wouldn't be classed as tomes because it's not all collected in one single volume. It's not intimidating. In fact, I'm looking at these thinking, oh, I could probably read these one day, easy. And that's kind of the point. A tome should be slightly intimidating, slightly off-putting, in the sense that I know I need to read this, I know I want to read this, and yet something's stopping me, and it's the size. That's usually never the case in BL. The size never stops anyone. Unfortunately, when it comes to these three, they're all far too small. Now, one workaround that you might want to use if you are a manga fan and you do have BL manga that you want to read, and that's to read a concise little short story. Sometimes you get 2-volume or 3-volume stories or series and you want to read the whole thing, but you've been put off by the fact that there are only 2 or 3 volumes. It won't take you long, but you actually have to sit down and read it, and it's slightly longer than 1 volume, so you're going to need to dedicate some time to it. This is a case for Behind Story. I know it's supposed to be a really great story, and I've, over the years collected all 3 volumes, so I have them, they're in my collection, but they're still on my TBR. I haven't read them yet. And lots of people have said it's a really good story, you should read it. I just haven't got round to it. Together, these 3 would be over 500 pages, so I know that it would classify as one single volume of a tome, and yet I can't bring myself to say this is going to actually qualify. If I have tomes in my collection, if I've read all of my tomes and I still want to take part in Tome Topple, this might be an option for me. So if you have a short series that you've been putting off reading because it's going to take longer than 1 single volume, then maybe you could take part. I know that the hosts have said this is something you can do, they're not going to police you, and they're a little bit more relaxed. I do think this might be an option for those who have manga in their collection but don't have many omnibus or large page numbered volumes. Now, within BL we also do have some omnibus volumes, but not many. It's not something that we have a lot of. In front of you is a very small selection of omnibus volumes. Generally though, they're 2-in-1s. So for example, Loveless has a 2-in-1 for up to volume 8 when Viz republished the ones from Tokyopop. Gravitation is a Tokyopop omnibus. After they'd printed volumes 1 through 12, they then printed them again in omnibus form. Embracing Love is also a reprint of what Be Beautiful had printed for Embracing Love. This is volume 3 and 4. We have 5 and 6, and then that's it, even though there's more in Japan. 7 Days is a reprinting again of the 2 volumes that June Manga had printed. We have Yellow, which is the omnibus volume. There are 2 volumes of that. And Kizuna, which is once again a reprinting. This is the deluxe edition, and there are 6 volumes of that. I'm just gonna leave Underground Hotel alone for a second, because all of these I've just mentioned are reprints. Even Yellow is like another reprint. So very often when we get an omnibus, it's because it's a reprinted version of something that's already been printed and is now maybe out of print, or is a long series that they would like to reprint but try and get more people reading. It's easier to buy an omnibus version of it. This is something that Viz Media does quite a lot. So as you can see, I also have Underground Hotel, which is an 801 title, part of digital media, and they printed volumes 1 and 2, and I'm not sure if they are actually omnibus volumes, and this is a 4-volume series, but they're very thick. Together they're over 500 pages, but each single one is not. So once again, like I did with Behind Story, you could look at this as a challenge that I'm putting off because I haven't, once again, read through Underground Hotel. One, because of its size. It's small trim, and yet it's super thick. I'm laughing because I keep thinking about all of these innuendos. Sorry. Hey, I'm a BL channel, what can I say? But yeah, Underground Hotel, it's not long. It's not huge, but it's thick. Whereas Yellow, it's not that thick for its size. It's quite long. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Yeah, Underground Hotel is a 2-volume series. It's very thick, but I've never actually sat down and read it because the contents I know are going to be a little bit distressing. So that's kind of off-putting, and together I would have to read it and it would constitute a tome. So it's quite a large undertaking. So once again, if you have nothing that constitutes a tome, you could still take part by reading a short series. And this is, even though it's 2 volumes, they're very thick, it's very long, and it's a daunting task. So there are omnibus you could read. However, unfortunately, Loveless Gravitation, Embracing Love, Kizuna, Yellow, 7 Days, none of them are over the 500 pages mark because they're 2-volume omnibus rather than 3. Now, when it comes to tomes, BL tomes within my collection, I actually only have 2 that constitute a tome by the criteria that they're over 500 pages, and that is Little Butterfly Omnibus, because it's a 3-volume omnibus. Once again, a reprinting of the single volumes put together. I have the 3 single volumes, but now I also have this omnibus version. I was very happy to get it just a couple months ago for about £10, so it's fairly new to my collection. Something that is not new to my collection is The Heart of Thomas by Moto Hagio. This I got a few years ago for amazingly, and I'm gonna just get so much hate in the comments if anyone else is listening to this. The Heart of Thomas I got for £7 on eBay a couple of years ago. I know, I'm so sorry guys. If it makes you feel better, I'm looking out for Drunken Dreams, which I could have bought about 3 years ago. I could have got it for about £25 and I didn't get it, and now I'm kicking myself. So yeah, The Heart of Thomas for £7. This is over 500 pages, it's only just over 500 pages, but these are the only 2 tomes that I have in my BL collection. So for this tome topple, I will be reading 1 and or 2 of these. I'm going to attempt to read anyway Little Butterfly Omnibus Edition first, because The Heart of Thomas is just so... I've tried a couple of times to get started and I just feel like I need to be emotionally there for it, and I've just never been emotionally there for it. I need to give my heart over to this work. And every time I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. So yeah, The Heart of Thomas I might get to if I manage to get through Little Butterfly Omnibus, but my plan is to just read Little Butterfly because it is quite a long one. I don't know, I might speed through it and end up having to start The Heart of Thomas, which will just destroy me. Just before Christmas. Anyway, so this is my plan for Tome Topple. It's kind of a TBR because I only have these 2. We'll see how I get on. If you have a manga collection and you have a few tomes on your shelf, usually the omnibus sized ones, then you'd want to give it a go and get through them. So good luck with your TBR, especially those of the tome kind. Remember, if you want to take part in the Tome Topple Readathons, be sure to follow them over on Twitter. They have sprints and info and lots of support. Now I'm going to be reading Little Butterfly a go, so wish me luck. But I will also be reading probably some prose as well, maybe some male romance, and I will most likely be doing a wrap-up video for either just the Tome Topple or for the whole of March. If you are interested in whether or not I am successful and what else I choose to read for the Tome Topple, be sure to subscribe so that you get notified when that video is up. Also, do you have any recommendations, any tome recommendations for manga fans? If there are manga that you think definitely is over 500, you should be picking up that. Or specifically BL fans, so it doesn't necessarily need to be manga. If you're a BL fan, there are other forms of BL. So any recommendations, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to get recommendations from others, especially if it's BL. So yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing for part of March anyway. If you're interested, remember it's the 15th to the 28th. So those days will definitely be BL days, but remember as well that every day is a BL day. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!